Hi folks, welcome to your Gersnet immediate post-match reaction pod coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering. My name's Alec Anderson. Yeah, I'm raging, mate. Yeah, I'm raging. Get your crying with laughter emojis into me straight away because I am absolutely raging. Rangers lost by 2-1 against Celtic in the days old firm SPFL Premiership fixture, 12:30 kick-off live on Sky, Rangers TV. Parkhead, that's the last four Rangers managers at least, I haven't bothered checking beyond this, have lost their first game against Celtic. The last three out of the last four, their first loss as Rangers manager was at Parkhead. So yeah, have you seen that Alan Yentob thing? Is it Imagine? Because arty people, arty people use their imagination. So Alan Yentob's called it Imagine. It's a documentary thing. It's a series of documentaries. Usually last about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. They're on late at night. It's Alan Yentob trying to prove that he's no management, that he's not just a controller, not just an accountant who laid folk off, and it was all about numbers. Numbers and spreadsheets. He's arty now, Alan Yentob. He wears black linen suits without a tie. So he's definitely arty, and he's going to be talking to lots of different architects, writers, filmmakers, poets. He's going to be talking to them all over the world, all different famous folk that you've absolutely heard of, and you see, there's a documentary about such and such. And it's Alan Yentob's Imagine, and Alan Yentob's name is right at the front of it, and he's wearing like little wee trainers, the wee kind of sand shoe things, the baseball sand shoes, despite his age, because he doesn't care about age, because he's arty. And he'll do that kind of thing, and it's like he thinks if he gets close to an arty person, he will therefore be arty. He'll have, he gets close to somebody really talented, really gifted, that'll rub off. And it's like, if I'd got the one Christmas present that I really wanted, and that anybody who knew me or claims to know me really well would have immediately thought to get me the John Brown tour of the Rangers Museum. It's like me thinking that if there's somebody, one person in my life that should really know that how much I'm always talking about the fact that I always get Bomber Brown into my all-time 11. If they'd got me that present, it's like me saying if I'm on that tour and John Brown's talking to me, I then become a footballer like John Brown. I can then play football the same way John Brown played football. No, I don't. I can't. And I've not been so raging about not getting a present since she didn't get me the cake, the Cuba cake for my 50th. I saw Barbie. Do you see? But I saw Barbie over the Christmas period, and it's a nasty film, really nasty, really cruel. Stereotyping the guys like myself, stereotyping us fellas for who just want to bring Godfather into the women in our life's life. That's why I think women could really appreciate God if they just have it explained to them properly. They'll really appreciate Godfather, and particularly Godfather 2, because it's a sequel and it's like almost better than the first one. One of the few sequels it's actually won. It was on film for last night, and it's a bit see. I mean, I've explained it to her so many times. I've done my best to try and explain to her why it's a great scene. Lee Strasberg, the guy for the Actors Studio, the guy who invented method acting, and can he do it though? Can he put his money where his mouth is? Can he do the job in a big Hollywood film? And there he is. He used to play Hyman Roth, and he does. He pulls it off. He's absolutely brilliant. But he's dishing out. They're in Cuba, and he's dishing out the cake, divvying it up, and his birthday. And the cake's got a map of Cuba on it, and that's like a symbol. Obviously, that's a metaphor for the fact that the mafia are just in the middle of divvying up. He's handing it out to all the heads of the families and that. And every time I've had a bit of cake in my life since I first saw Godfather 2, I just can see Hyman Roth, Lee Strasberg going, yeah, enjoy. And I do that all the time at parties and things like that. And she's there all the time. She says, no excuse really. No, it's not even like the cake's in the shape of Cuba. It's just a cake. It's 1950s this scene's set in. This is a guy who had, like Marilyn Monroe had him on speed dial, and days before speed dial, when she had to be in films and try and act, and he would be in her ear all the time, off camera, telling her how to act. And he's coming, Lee Strasberg, he's, method acting. He's doing it. He's proven himself with this bit of cake. And so you don't even have to go. And there's all the guys that stay round about. I'm kind of West End adjacent. All the guys that are walking about with their wee Breton shirts on and their turned up jeans and all that. They're in their 50s and that, and they had a partnership in an accountancy firm for like 30 years, but they took early retirement, and now they think they're in Bell and Sebastian. And half of them are actual bakers. It's men that do the baking now. We do all the cakes and stuff like that. It's all men. And they can make like Michelangelo's David out of marzipan and icing and a bit of sponge. And but I'm not even asking them to do a cake in the shape of Cuba. Just do it like it's in the film, because it's all men. They've all seen it. Those same kind of men. They've all watched Godfather and Godfather 2 as many times as I have. They know what I'm looking for. It'd have been so easy to get, but no, I got a bit of carrot cake from Marks and Spencer's and just ate it really, really disappointedly in one sitting. But that's the most disappointed I've been about a present. And Yentob, he's on trying to get this feeling of artiness of actual artists. And it's David Strigley. David Strigley, who did the Partick Thistle mascot, the mad Partick Thistle mascot, Glasgow-based English artist. Nice guy, he does kind of Turner Prize type stuff, and he's on an open top bus. An open top bus, because that'd be Yentob's idea of what it is to be arty. We'll do an open top bus tour, right? That's mad, isn't it? That's mad. That's arty. That's what artists do. And Strigley's going, all right, mate. So I'm on an open top bus down Byers Road, and it turns up and it goes up University Avenue, and he's showing him his old digs and all that when he was staying in Glasgow or the student areas, and it's going along down Gibson Street. Now she's staying in a flat in Bank Street, just off Bank Street on Cowan Street, and I'd go into Gibson Street all the time. I did a lot of drinking, a lot of eating of spaghetti bolognese mostly. Round there, it was good. And there's the old public toilets. I don't think they were ever open, even when I was staying round there. That just at the bottom of Gibson Street, just before you go into the roundabout on Woodlands Road, and the public toilets, all gents next to one of the entrances to Kelvin Grove Park. You know what I mean, Mr. Cottage, and so it's Strigley. The bus is going past there, and Strigley goes, that's where I did my art installation. We turned it into a pub. And Yentob's go, what the public, the toilets, the old toilets down there that are shut. Says, we didn't actually have anything inside it, we just did all the signage up, we did it up outside so it looked like a pub, and we called it the Ship, and it's a wee flashback, it shows you all the pictures of the pub, and it was called the Ship. And Yentob, man of the world, he's been all over the world talking about art and stuff like that. He's like, well, what'd you call it the Ship for? And Strigley's looking up and going, well, it's an anagram of pish. And Yentob's like, oh, what does that mean? Strigley's like, oh my God, this guy, Mr. Arty. Can you imagine with Alan Yentob? He says it's an anagram of pish. Pish is what they say in Glasgow instead of piss. So it's a public toilet, and I've called it the Ship. It's an anagram of pish and all that. And a lot of other, I don't know if Yentob had anything to do with the documentaries that have been on over the Christmas period about disco, but the story of disco, the history of disco, been really good stuff on the BBC about disco the last few weeks. And the death of disco was marked by a lot of novelty disco songs, and D-I-S-C-O, and since I've moved my backside from the sofa of defeat through to the garage conversion of disappointment, that's all it's been going through my head is P-I-S-H, pish. That was P-I-S-H, pish. Yeah, it's pish. I'm raging, mate. Send me the crying with laughter emojis, and that should be us. That's 8 minutes. So that should be it, folks. That should be us rid of all the angry folk. We get the angry Rangers fans, angry with disappointment, and Celtic fans angry with glee, vindicated, all that kind of stuff. But this, the decent folk of whatever colour of scarf are now watching this podcast. You know the score. Yeah, we played well in the end up, and it's really dangerous. We've lost our first game under Philippe Clement, right? That's fine. It's no fine. It was absolutely horrible. But we end up with XG, and I do know what XG is. Funny that, isn't it? The one time I need to cling on to it, I've suddenly decided I'm not the kind of daft old man. I do actually know what XG means. Our XG was better than Celtic's today. We had more touches in the opposition box than Celtic, with more shots on goal, and we went down to 10 men at 2-0 down. We end up dominating the game. We've got Celtic pinned into their own half, then we've got them pinned into their own box, and you could feel the fear coming from the stands at Parkhead, but we get beat. So I'm stuck in that situation, that kind of mindset where it's like, it's so near. If we'd got a draw there with the 10 men, it would have been an absolute disaster for Celtic, and a total fillip for us. It would have put us not top of the league by any manner of means, but with the games in hand, and just the devastation that would have caused to Celtic psychologically, the pressure that would have put Brendan Rodgers under, would have been absolutely fantastic, absolutely pivotal. So to come so close to that, I feel we can't be in any way down on the team or too down on the team. There's always going to be criticism. There's plenty of things went wrong today, but neither was there any empty shirts. Nobody had a great game, a perfect game for Rangers today by any manner of means, but I don't think there was that kind of accusation that there was people who just didn't turn up at all. There was no empty shots. People played badly today, but never shied away from it. And I think this is something we have to bear in mind. I know you don't want to hear it, folks. If you have a blue persuasion, you don't want to hear about 2012, and I promised you I wouldn't talk about 2012 anymore. If we won that League Cup, right, we've won it. I'm going to talk about 2002, but I don't mean that. Let's just talk about since we come back from our spell in the lower leagues, and that was only 4 years long. We've been back in the top flight for 8 years, so that's probably irrelevant as well. The tie-in we had with AC/DC. This is dirty deeds done dirt cheap. It's the last 2 times we played Celtic at Parkhead for the first time in a season. We were 3-0 down at half time. One of those times it ended up 4-0. We were devastated. It just made the difference. It made a massive difference. We weren't coming back from that defeat either of the last 2 seasons. Today, we've gone down by 2-1 and kind of dominated. The last half hour, it ended up, the amount of injury time it was played, it was half an hour. At the end, we dominated. And we've only lost by a single goal. And I feel as if there was a lot of spin going on from Brendan Rodgers trying to, like, will you love me again? Will you believe in me again? Will you get a bit of the Ange sparkle, kind of the sparkly dust onto my shoulders and pretend that you love me again? We let them do that. We have lost the game, and I'm stuck between we can't delude ourselves. We can't be doing that thing of ifs and buts and what if and we're raging because there's a conspiracy because I think the chap Bernardo who scores the first goal, is it Bernardo? Portuguese fella playing his first Old Firm game, they kept telling me. He scores the first goal of the game, first goal for Celtic. He stamped in Connor Golson's ankle, as far as I was concerned. I'm a Rangers supporter. I'm biased. I'm seeing it through blue-tinted specs. I've not watched it back. I've got no great desire to watch it back, given what happened in the end-up. But he stamps in Connor Golson's ankle. Ian Crocker and Kenny Miller, these things happen in derbies. What the hell's that got to do with it? We'd be in The Hague right now if it happened the other way around and there had been a red card dished out to Connor Goldson. So maybe it was just a yellow or whatever like that. Maybe there was nothing to it at all. Maybe completely missed him. And I'm just seeing it through the blue tinted bitter old specs. But I felt as if there was that, and there was obviously the handball thing with Alistair Johnson handling the ball in the Celtic box blatantly towards the end of the first half, which we didn't find out until halfway through the second half. It was offside. The ball into the box from Rangers was offside. Not only did there 2 players who were caught offside seem to be coming back the way, like running out of the Celtic box towards the centre circle, not interfering, I wouldn't have said, but it was a goal kick that was awarded when the ball went out. So maybe the goal kick, maybe we've been getting ourselves confused. Sky's trying so busily, as they do, the people who wanted VAR now happily using VAR as an excuse to slag the same officials they said they were trying to help, the pundits. Maybe the ball was actually respotted for the foul so close to the box that everybody thought it was a by kick. But anyway, for the offside decision, because it was quite close to the 6-yard box. But it seems to me that was a complete muck up. But if we start doing that, we should have won that game. We should have taken something out of the game. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. You go down a bad rabbit hole. I think you go into a bad mindset. I'd never see that working properly. You need the solidity, the material gain of the 3 points. You're not using up your energy convincing yourself and trying to convince the outside world that you should have got something out of that game, that you could have got something out of that game. You've just got the 3 points in the bag, as Celtic have tonight. They're going to really enjoy their night. They're probably going to enjoy their winter break as well. But I think it's dangerous for us to go into that. So it's good if we let that, if as has been the case in so many of the seasons over the last kind of 8 seasons, where we're going straight from the festive period Old Firm game into the winter break, we would let that delusion kind of metastasize and end up, it could spread throughout the squad, could create a kind of delusional feeling. But if we've got Kilmarnock on Tuesday night, I think that's really good. It lets us go out there and prove that tonight was, just like Philippe Clement was hinting in his press conference, it's like he was stating outright in his pre-match presser yesterday, just a part of the marathon. That's why he was saying that. That's why he changed his tune from next game is the most important to this next game isn't that important, because he knew this could happen today and he's wanting to keep us thinking about the long term. We won't know until the end of the season, until the Premiership winners' medals are dished out, just how this game has affected things. But the one thing I can't help thinking is the last 2 times we went to Parkhead for the first time in a season, we lost 3-0 and 4-0. We're 3-0 down at half time. We weren't in the game. We were blown off the park. And it inspired Celtic. It was more at that point about inspiring Celtic to go on and win the title. When they're copping out of Europe, we're trying to win things on all fronts. They're copping out of Europe, but they're winning the treble. They're winning the League Cup and the league and that under Postecoglou. But they were struggling for the first 6 months under Postecoglou. It was the win at Parkhead that pushed them on. And we know a few things were kind of moved about to try and help that happen. But it's since we won the league in 2020-21, this is what's happened. The league Celtic haven't run away with the league. They're very confident looking. That they always look like favourites from kind of February onwards in Postecoglou's first season, and probably from the outset last season. But they never completely ran away from us. We end up they're not winning the league by a massive difference. Before Steven Gerrard won the league, particularly when we first come back into the top flight, Celtic were beating us heavily as a celebration, as the proverbial stamping on your throat thing, keeping you in your place, making sure you weren't going to get any closer to them. We couldn't finish second even in our first 2 seasons in the top flight. You get no praise at Rangers for managing eventually, as we did in Gerrard's first 2 seasons, to finish second. An improvement on the previous 2 seasons. And then to finish, the first time we finished second under Gerrard, it was, look, we're getting away from third. And the second time, it was, we're getting closer to first. And the third time we won the league. But you get no praise for that, but it's one of those jobs that's got to be done if you're going to improve to the point where you're winning the league. You basically take the slagging for not even being able to finish second, and you hope to be getting slagged for not even finishing first. That's a sign of improvement at Rangers. The same kind of dirty job, I think, might have been done today, where we're not getting tanked 3-0 at Parkhead or 4-0 in our first trip there of the season. It's 2-1, and we've got grievances, and there's a kind of body of opinion that will say we end up, being the better team for the last half hour with 10 men. Now, there's times you can be the better team with 10 men, and that just highlights your cowardice as a team. Why didn't you do that when you were with 11 men on the park? Was it the pressure was off you? Nobody's expecting you to do anything. Suddenly you start playing. That wasn't the case today. Rangers really had a lot of the ball in the first half. We totally took it to Celtic, and it was execution. We're back to that Michael Beale thing of execution. That Michael Beale executed himself. That suicidal admission he made, where he said the only problem is we can't do anything in our box. We can't defend in our box, and we can't put the ball in the back of the net in the opposition box. But in the midfield, we're absolutely fantastic. I think that was. We're boiled back down to that essence today. But it's almost like Philippe Clement is such a good manager, he's got us to the point where that is the only thing that will beat us, is going to Parkhead. That's the only thing that will bring that back, and he's not got his own players in yet. He signed one yesterday on loan. It's starting to happen. He's got his own staff round about him. The injuries and the lack of his own players, I think yesterday. So I think today is the first time that's been able to catch up with him, and that's a sign of a great manager. That he will only lose if he is absolutely up against it. And the toughest gig on the calendar for Rangers these days domestically is Celtic at Parkhead. Excuse me. It's getting to me. It's killing me. And I think you've got to look at that as good as the man can possibly do. The only confusing factor there is beating Real Betis in Seville. And I've never seen us taking a scalping in the last couple of seasons, football-wise, the way we did between going 1-0 up against Real Betis and going 2-1 up against them. When they come back to equalise the first time and then come right back, I mean, it was just like they were thumping us football-wise, but didn't bother us at all. So you've got to say that should be a harder gig, but they just played Real Madrid. The week before that, they're expecting that the game before that, Real Betis, they're expecting to beat us. We know the biggest thing in their calendar. We've got a massive support in the stadium that night as well. It's a bit more relaxed. Celtic, it's just all out. They only have to beat us. Their focus is beating us. They were waiting for us, blah, blah, blah. We've got no support in the stadium. They pummeled into us as much as we pummeled into them, and we come out losing 2-1 with 10 men. I feel as if it's a slight improvement. I think it says the manager is taking us as far as he possibly can, without being able to sign his own players and with the injuries that we have. Dujon Sterling is on the fast track, a Calvin Bassey fast track from being a kind of workman-like, if not unreliable backup fullback into being seriously class in another position altogether. Maybe he doesn't get on the ball as often as he should. Maybe he's one of these guys who is either not involved or only gets involved when he thinks he can do something well. I don't know. Maybe he should be involved more, but I thought he was phenomenal today. He was a real, the real hope, I think, for the future that came out of the game today. And that he was allowed to do that against Celtic at Parkhead, that he could do that against Celtic at Parkhead, I thought was a massive boost for us. We're talking about long term. But a lot of Rangers players didn't play as well as they possibly can today. A lot of Rangers players made a lot of mistakes. Cyril Dessers, I think, summed up the entire performance. He's making the runs. He keeps trying. He's not giving up. He's taking the ball. He's holding the shape of the team, but he's losing the ball. He's not passing when he should. He was running down the Celtic defence. He was part of the high press that was really working, but kept creating situations which they could not take advantage of because they could not shoot. Celtic could shoot. We couldn't. That's the difference today. Celtic, it takes me back to, I remember being in the press section at Hampden. That's a long story, even longer than this one. The press section at Hampden after the 2002 epic Scottish Cup final. Rangers beating Celtic 3-2, Barry Ferguson free kick, Peter Lovencrantz scoring the win on the last minute, end-to-end game. And talking about bigotry, our Old Firm game, talking about there was cross-border bigotry that day where it was an English journalist just stood up basically in this whole kind of press area after the game, when everybody's going on and on about what a great game it was. Yeah, it was a great game. But it was exciting, but it wasn't quality. You see, it was a lot of the excitement came from mistakes. It wasn't a good quality game. It was a very exciting game. I thought today, Celtic got to a European final the following season, so the guy was talking complete rot. But today, I think it was very much the case. Both teams, the application was fantastic. They were really going for it, a lot of energy. If there's any such thing as a neutral in Scottish football, they would have enjoyed the intensity of that game today, the honesty of both teams just going for it full tilt. But there was 3 moments of quality. Celtic had 2, we had 1. That was it. There was a lot of mistakes being made. And I think both managers have obviously told their teams before the game, just get the ball forward. Just turn it round and get it up the park. Get in behind them. Hit the space behind their centre halves and get on the end of it. Celtic's eagerness to do that thing, the thing they did under Postecoglou, get the ball boys are getting the ball to Joe Hart every time it goes out. As soon as a new multi-ball is in process and they're turning around, they're firing the ball straight. But we were onto that. That was playing into our hands a lot of the time. Our press was working really well. We created so many situations, but we could not execute them. Cyril Dessers cannot shoot the fucking ball. When it gets at your feet, get it out your feet and put it in the back of the fucking net or have a go or pass the thing. This is Cyril Dessers, who scored an absolute worldie against Real Betis in the Benito Villamarin, so I can't be too down on him, but it was pretty frustrating, but it was a frustration born of Rangers playing so much better than they have in visits to Parkhead in the past couple of years. I'm super superstitious, as you know, with football. If you follow me on Twitter, please don't. It's a nightmare because I'm not at a game, and of course none of us were at the game today. But well done to those Rangers supporters who went down to Ibrox today. Clement saying in the presser yesterday that the supporters would be there in their heart, obviously trying to create something amongst these players that they wouldn't get blown away by it being a Celtic day. I was at the game where we beat Celtic at Parkhead for the first time in 9 years in 1989, and I remember I'd been going to regularly. I wasn't going to Rangers games when we won there in 1980 when Alec Miller scored that wild winner, and so I grew up starting to go and watch Rangers more regularly. Then going to away games, I was starting to go to Parkhead. So I'd been going for a long time without seeing us winning at Parkhead, and I always found Parkhead really depressing when I come out of the place and all that. And mostly it's because you're not welcome, and also the surrounding areas and what have you. And Parkhead wasn't a nice stadium at that point in time. And then we won that game that day, and it's grown men crying. It was absolutely fantastic. We beat Celtic at Parkhead in the league, first time in 9 years. And I came outside into the bus park, and I was just like, yeah, I'm just depressed again. Just depressed at being here. So that can, just being at a place where there's no sign of other, you just feel you're really unwelcome, can be kind of depressing for a team. So I thought the Rangers support that went down there today and just got created an absolute maelstrom of colour and pro-Rangers passion for the team bus as it left Ibrox. I could hear the fireworks. I'm about, 6-7 mile walk to Ibrox from where I am. I'm on the other side of the river. It's 20 minutes in the car. to get there. I could hear the fireworks going off at 10:30 from my house today. It was fantastic. So well done to they folk. But I think the the idea. What am I talking about? What's that? What's that got to do in? I totally lost the plot there, just like Rangers did. But the whole idea is that Rangers played, I think, as well as it could possibly play today in defeat. Do you know what I mean? It was, and I like the idea that we've got Kilmarnock on Tuesday night to either slap any delusions of grandeur out of us or let us prove that, yeah, that was just a bump in the road that's purely down to a lack of personnel. Um, we couldn't pull the trigger. That was a big problem today. The team lineup, there's only one change from the lineup that went to Fir Park against Motherwell, and that was John Lundstrom back in the team. So that was great news. That meant there was good news and bad news for me anyway. And two of the players that remained the same from Fir Park. Connor Goldson, great news. We've been worried about him. He came off early at Fir Park with a bit of a groin strain, but he played, and we needed Connor Goldson in a game like this. Ridvan Yilmaz, I wasn't so sure about. I think he's mad. He's given the ball away left, right, and centre today. His distribution, close range distribution, is absolutely honking. But he can win the ball back. His tackling can be fantastic. Obviously, physically diminutive. You always worry about that at Parkhead, in particular, but. He was kind of all over the place. I was worried about him in the atmosphere, but of course, Ridvan Yilmaz played for Besiktas, and you get some pretty tidy atmospheres in Istanbul and Istanbul derbies. But pretty much every home game he plays for Besiktas is crazy. So, no worries in that sense. But John Lundstrom being back in the team today, it was a massive boost, and we needed him that way where he gets the ball facing his own goal, tackles somebody, takes the ball off them, and turns them and gets the ball forward again. I think Clement had kind of said to himself, or said to the team today, if you're lacking confidence, just hit the ball hard, square or forward, and quickly you'll build up confidence. And I'm talking about superstition. I'm talking about my Twitter account. Don't go on it. Because I'm always talking crap, and I annoy people when I'm not at a game by constantly tweeting during the Rangers away game on the telly bad stuff, how I think the worst is going to happen. That's what I was talking about, my superstition, and it's a kind of extension of the hope for the best, prepare for the worst motto. I'm just thinking, if Rangers are playing really well, I'm going to get myself hopeful here, try and find out what can go wrong, and maybe somehow communicate that to the Rangers team to keep their feet in the ground and keep focused. And so last night, I said on the preview pod, you've got to play well. The first 20 minutes, Parkhead is the one place we go domestically where we're trying to quieten the home crowd and try to quieten the home team for 20 minutes. We've got to try and soak it up for the first 20 minutes. And of course, we do that today, but we do it so well, despite Celtic had a chance, a header that they should really have put away maybe about 10 minutes into the game. They missed from kind of point blank. We do it so well, generally shutting them down, that it ends up you're frustrated. I went full circle and we've actually played so well in the first 20 minutes without scoring a goal that it's going to haunt us. It's going to come back to bite us in the backside. And 5-6 minutes later, they get the goal. It's a corner, and Sima has a poor clearance, kind of headed. He's a striker. It's not his job, but he's at the front post. He heads the ball kind of not very heavily and lightly, and just towards the edge of the box and right in the middle of the goals. And the guy Bernardo, as I say, who I thought should have been off the park, but he rattles the thing first time. He shoots, he gets himself over the ball, and he volleys the thing like he wants to score. The one thing we couldn't do, and then it goes to the back of the net. They're 1-0 up, and it's Ian Crocker that was saying 100 odd Old Firm games. The team that scored first has only gone on to lose on about 5 occasions, but a draw would have done us today. Second half, absolute nightmare. They scored within about 2 minutes at the start of the second half. And it's a cracking finish, a cracking shot from Kyogo, who's proved himself to be a spectacular goal scorer, capable of spectacular goals. I think Neil Lennon and Chris Boyd were having one of the kind of plastic rammies about whether Jack Butland was to blame, but I think it's a case of Jack Butland's actually got himself in trouble by getting a hand to it, by trying to save the thing. If he just stood there rooted to the spot, it would have been like, oh, he'd no chance, but it was a wonder strike. But he's got himself towards it, but it's not been enough. I think we should have shut down Kyogo better. We shouldn't have allowed him to turn and have the shot. We shouldn't have allowed Celtic to get the ball in there. But up they go to nothing. You're thinking, this could be bad. And that's when we died a death then. We would get really quiet then, from the moment they went 2-0 up until Balogun gets sent off. But even in that period, Celtic didn't score any more goals. They were kind of dominating, but they weren't able to score any more goals. And it gets to the point where we get Balogun gets sent off quite rightly. Let's Maeda get behind. It's a really poor touch from Balogun, lets them through on goal. They play through Maeda behind him, and Balogun just brings him down rather than letting him go clean through on goal. Off he goes. Has a wee go at somebody's trying to push him off the park when the Celtic players. Has a wee go back. Just summing up the kind of general aggression and lack of respect we were showing Celtic today. But and we then start dominating the game, and part of that was getting rid of Todd Cantwell, getting him off the park. I was quite surprised at the substitutions. But they all seem to work. They all seem to improve us. Lundstrom eventually goes off, but he's not been playing. He's been injured. He goes off, and Kieran Dowell comes on, but Sterling stays on. It's like he's the man, and they're sitting two in midfield now. Kieran Dowell had to put the ball to the back post when Tav was free. Yeah, and Tav had about 6-7 free kicks throughout the game from round about the Celtic box, and hadn't missed the first man once. He'd hit a Celtic body first time every time. Bad free kicks for Tav. He didn't hit a Rangers jersey first time. This one I just put it straight into the top bin. That was like with 2 minutes of normal time to go, but we knew there was going to be a lot of injury time. Turned into, I think the game went on for 101, 102 minutes all in, and we were pressuring them without ever looking at scoring. But as it happened in the first half, when Dessers dispossessed the guy and went clean through on goal, he's just waiting. He's waiting for people to catch him, almost like so he doesn't have to make the shot. He's waiting for defenders to get back and catch him. He's slow. He gets caught offside. Poor decision making. Can he shoot? Can he get the ball from out of his feet at all? But if Danilo had played today, I think we win the game. So this is the way we've got to look at it. We're down to the bare bones as a squad thing. We're going to get a chance to rectify that in the winter. Todd Cantwell, in the winter break. Todd Cantwell, I don't know. I think January could be bad for his Rangers career. Not that I think he'll be sold, but we might buy somebody in who the manager will put in his place, because Todd Cantwell tries to showboat at 0-0. He's confident, but he's too confident. He thinks he's making the bad decisions again. Again, he's part of this high press that we had. Celtic are pressing us, we're pressing them. It's back and forth. He was all over McGregor, but he let McGregor kind of have a go back up at that at one time. They're having a wee rammy. He shouldn't have back down there. You've got to get in his face and stay in his face, and you've got to get on his heels and stop him building up as he had. And Todd Cantwell scored the last time he beat Celtic, and he was all over McGregor in that game, totally nullifying him. And he was pressed, and he was part of that press today that caught Celtic out the back so many times. But again, the bad decision making, because he wants to do it all himself instead of squaring the ball to somebody in a better position. He's trying to take an extra touch. The crowd are on his back, they're booing him, but it's a massive compliment, and he shouldn't let it put him off his game. He shouldn't be so eager to score a wonder goal that's going to shut everybody up and all that. The manager has already had a go at him this season about his inability to fulfil the remit he's been given by the manager. And that's when he was playing on the right-hand side or whatever. And now he's back in his own position. He's still doing that. I feel as if the writing's on the wall, maybe for Todd Cantwell. Maybe not. He's a fantastic talent. I think it's just really frustrating to watch him unable to perform the duties he has been given. But yeah, we get beat. Celtic won the game. It's absolutely massive for them. I felt as if there was a bit of spin there, as I say, trying to get everybody back on side. And we know what it's like as a support. With players that a lot of Rangers supporters have decided certain Rangers players just aren't good enough. And when that Rangers do well, they go quiet. But the minute we don't do as well as we possibly could, they come back and they start slagging them again, and they start telling us about the times that they did well, they got away with it, they were jammy. And there were a massive body of the Celtic support who watched the way Celtic ended that game today and will go and enjoy the night because they've just beat Rangers. And won't have any complaints, loud complaints just now. But should they slip up on their next game, the game they play before the winter break or thereafter season, they'll be, in that time we beat them at Parkhead under Rodgers, he was bloody lucky. They were playing us off the park with 10 men. So I'm gutted. I'm not going to lie about that. Absolutely gutted that we didn't get anything from the game today. But I think it's quite easy to see where the problems were coming, and I think you could imagine that Philippe Clement is a manager who will be able to do something about that, and I hope we can do it on Tuesday night. And it's quite interesting to be thinking, I don't really know how to judge this game properly until our next game, which is against Kilmarnock, and it's not that situation we used to be in where we'd we'd do well against Celtic in the last game before the winter break, and then we'd come back and we'd be crap in a Scottish Cup game against a lower league side like Dumbarton, and then we'd eventually drop points against a team that was supposed to beat like Kilmarnock. We've got a chance to, and we'd let it slip away. We've lost to Celtic this time, so let's go out and scalp Kilmarnock on Tuesday night and go into that winter break feeling like, aye. And we've got the pressure on ourselves now because Seaman's gone away for the Africa Cup of Nations. He's not in any chance of coming back before we play Hibs at Easter Road or St Mirren away, and what are now becoming kind of there's more onus on us now. They seem more onerous, these games, now that we've slipped up today and we're 8 points behind, although we've got 2 games in hand and we're needing to win both those games in hand just to make sure we've got a chance to leapfrog Celtic when they come to Ibrox for the next Old Firm game. So aye, it's a loss. It's a bad loss. It's an annoying loss. But I think in many ways it could have been a lot worse, and we'll find out on Tuesday night what the positives are. I'll be with you before, or at worst, I'll definitely be with you after that game. Go and watch Godfather, folks. Have a few drinks and forget about it till Tuesday anyway.